It's another edition of the Field of 68 off-season grades. And on this episode, Jeff Goodman and I are talking about a team that came so close to breaking through and winning a national championship. For Kelvin Sampson, though, as much as that was a sour taste, the Cougars still figure to be a top 3 team in the country in preseason polls and getting votes number 1. Jeff, the question then becomes, my goodness, for a team that came that close, for a team that has owned the Big 12 since they came in, like, yeah, you would have wanted your title. We all know that. But damn, Jeff, now when you're putting together these preseason rankings every single offseason, it only takes you a couple to say, yep, Houston's right there. Just put them in.
It's crazy, Fana, because the moment that Florida won the national title last year, it was, oh my God, they won, incredible. And then you went to, man, I feel so bad. This was Kelvin's only shot. You know, he's 69 years old. This was it. This was the last chance he was going to get to ever have a chance to compete for a national title. Oh, that's not the case, right? Because they have a team now that brought back enough, and they lost a lot. Obviously, Roberts was a huge loss. Cryer was a huge loss. But again, getting Uzan back, huge. Getting some other really good pieces back. Tugler, spending the money to get him. He can move right into that Roberts role now. And then bringing in 3 incredibly talented freshmen that they feel like really fit their culture. Because a lot of times, Houston hasn't gotten those guys before, and we'll talk about some of these freshmen as we go on here, but they haven't gotten them because Kelvin hasn't wanted them or they haven't fit with the program, right? There's a lot of programs that sometimes you can recruit at a higher level, so you do. You win enough, you recruit, you get away from what made you great. Well, Houston feels like, hey, they've got these 3 super talented freshmen that are higher ranked than anybody they've really brought in before, but they also fit their culture. They're still guys that are tough, that are about defense, that are about, winning and maybe sacrificing. So here we are again, Fana, with a Houston team that is preseason top 5. I don't know where you want to put them, but they got to be somewhere in that top 5. Yeah, have to be. How do you not? And again, I think part of it also is you look at the guy who's coaching them. Yes. And you just say, like, I always, when I do rankings, it's you do them based on talent first. Don't even think about the coaches. And then you move them around after you say, okay, this team, this Houston team, yeah, their talent level might be closer and their experience might be closer to 7th. But with Kelvin Sampson coaching them, I'm going to move them up at the end from 7th to 3rd.
Right. And some folks have them 2nd. Heck, they'll probably get some number 1 votes. I think what's interesting is you look at this team, yes, L.J. Cryer, Xavier Francis, Juwan Roberts, Mike Wilson, gone. But Milos Uzan, Emmanuel Sharp, JoJo Tugler, Uzan and Sharp, Milos was solid early, and then as the year went on, Jeff, he won Houston some big games with his shot making and his ability to just change games from a bucket getting perspective. The fact that he and Sharp are back for this team, and Tugler, who Kelvin Sampson, every time he talks about JoJo Tugler, it's like he wants to give him a hug because of how hard he plays and how relentless he is. Yep. The fact that they've got those 3 back, we'll get to the freshmen in a moment, but the fact that those guys are back, I'm just fascinated to see Uzan and Sharp again, because I respected Milos, Jeff, and then he did what he did as the year went on for this Cougars team. What Houston needs is guys who, when they're in the meat grinder, can make an individual play offensively. And they have a couple of those guys who have been at the highest game that you can in college basketball. That is unknown, and it is freaking huge for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember last year at Players Era in Vegas, and I think they went 1-2, and I'm walking off with Kelvin, and he's just like distraught, and I'm thinking they're dead. Like, there's no way this team's going to be very good. And they made a couple adjustments. One was big, where they started instead of trying to fit Uzen into Jamal Shedd's offense, they said, no, we're going to tailor it to him. And instead of playing the side ball screen, play him up top, give him more space to operate with. And man, did it ever work. But you're right. You got those three guys. They're all different. Sharp is a shooter scorer.
Yes, he
Tugler's
is.
probably the best defensive player in the country. And Uzen proved himself as one of the best point guards in the country. And then, again, you add in these three super talented freshmen. Harwell, Senac, and Flemings, Kingston, and they're all different. Yeah, they've got a chance again. They've got a chance. They're going to need Harwell's still coming off the injury. Like, he's still not 100% right now, but they're hoping he will be. They need one of those two, Flemings or Harwell, to be really, really good this year. The other one can be, kind of coming off the bench and give him a role. But one of those two has, and Harwell's the one with more size that kind of does a little bit of everything. Flemings is smaller. You could probably play him with Uzen. He can get to the basket. He can run the team too, so you can kind of take some pressure and play Uzen at a little bit off the ball if you want to. And then Senac, and the thing was, Senac, I think both him and Flemings put in the Puma circuit, so they didn't get as much attention. They're ranked high, but like it wasn't like we're talking about these kids a ton because we didn't see them as much. But Senac, they're hoping can have a pretty big impact this year as a 6'10 freshman big.
Well, I'll get to him in a second. Yeah. And we talked about Uzen, but Sharp, I should not disrespect. This is a guy who had 16 plus against Duke, Tennessee, and Purdue in the tournament. Yeah. And just found a way time and again to get some key buckets, hit 4 threes against Tennessee in that beatdown of the Volunteers. That's been such a difference for Houston now in the recent seasons is they have had different guys that have whether Marcus Sasser comes to mind immediately, that have stepped up when they need a bucket and gotten them that bucket for a team that again is that rigid defensively. Sometimes they fall into droughts themselves, but they haven't. And in the first 2 years in the Big 12, that's the biggest thing for me. Yeah. When they move to the Big 12, everyone's like, they're gonna have to taste reality. They're not. This isn't the American anymore, Jeff. They're 34-4.
It's crazy. I know.
Like that is absurd. And so that's why. There might be people who watch this and then watch another one and are like, well, these guys said they're counting on these freshmen and they're all good. It's because we're not going to doubt Houston, folks. Right. It's just not going to happen. No. Why would you? Senac. So let me tell you my Senex story. Yeah. So last December, I do some of the NBA app does these different recruiting events, and they had a couple of day event that aligned with the NBA Cup down in Vegas. I'm on jet lag. I was coming from UConn Gonzaga. It's the last game of the night. I'm ready to go to bed, but sit down and do the game. And I'm looking at all the players step on the floor. And, you prepare and whatnot, but when you're on the circuit, you're trying to learn who these kids are and whatnot. Senac steps on the floor. Like the first 5 possessions of the game, a block, a dunk, another block, like a lay-in. And I remember thinking to myself, I had it in my notes, but I was thinking like, man, this guy is a monster. Yeah. And then you quickly see, oh yeah, he's committed to Houston. Jeff, of the players that I saw from the last year, and you watch all kinds of players, Senac, it's like Kelvin went into a lab and made one of his guys to be that next Francis Roberts Tugler type.
I mean, they're hoping they can get like Jarris Walker type production out of him as a freshman, right? But they don't need it. If Tugler takes a big jump forward, that's the beauty, right? If Tugler takes a jump forward offensively, which they're hoping they're going to play through him a lot more too. They're going to play through him because they feel like he's gotten better as a decision maker. So let's say Tugler averages, I don't know, why can't he average 12 and 8? Well, all you need out of Seneca is, can you get 8 and 5 even? out of him because they're going to be pretty good offensively. Again, Harwell can score, Flemings can score. We know Sharp can score, Uzan can score. Like they're better than I think we give them credit for offensively, and they're going to be really, really, really good again defensively because I don't care how many freshmen they have. It doesn't matter. It's Kelvin Sampson. It's culture. You have the best defensive player on the court at all times in Joseph Tugler, and Harwell can be an elite defender too. Harwell can be an elite defender, and he's a guy that, again, I remember seeing before he got hurt a couple summers ago and falling in love with him. 6'5", 6'6", big wing, who can score, who shoots it fairly well, who gets after it defensively, and they got a lot here. They got a lot to work with again. I mean, this is a team that, they could be right back in the championship game again this year, and it wouldn't shock me at all.
Mm.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today.
Harwell, you brought it up. He's missed over a year with an ACL injury. But when you look at different people in the scouting world, Adam Finkelstein wrote this, that Harwell was one of the first players to distinguish himself nationally in the class of 2025. And he was poised for another jump before suffering the injury. But the word that Adam brings up, our buddy Adam Finkelstein, he says he is the definition of efficiency. Yeah. And a guy who might not be a natural creator, but that's just it, Jeff. This Houston team doesn't need that. They've got natural creators. Harwell, if things pan out, talking about a guy with a 6'6" frame, 6'9" plus wingspan, if he's a shot maker, and if he's a guy with feel offensively, when you have those guys incorporated into Houston basketball and you have the National Defensive Player of the Year on the other side and JoJo Tugler and a team that then will take on that DNA, that's why, to me, before we get to the X Factor, we talk storylines with juice. And Houston doesn't come at the top of the headlines because of they're Houston. They've become a blue blood type of program in terms of success every single year. But they don't top the storylines for a variety of reasons, one of which is they win so many bar fights. They beat the tar out of their opponents, and so they're not in a ton of interesting games, though that game at Kansas last year was fascinating. How interesting would it be? Like, from our perspective, from your perspective, I think of different arcs of programs. Like, isn't it meant to be for Houston to get back to that Final Four? And what happens if they get back to that Final Four and now again? It's staring Kelvin Sampson in the face, and he could finally get it. Like that to me has some possibilities, has some juice in the college basketball scope. Can they get there? They're so damn close.
I'm glad he didn't retire. And I think by coming that close, you wonder if he had just an average year, right? I saw him in Vegas, and if they had one of those years where they, knocked out in the second round or something like that, if he had just said, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to give the reins to my son, Kellen, and enjoy being a grandfather. I wonder if by coming that close, he was like, there's no way I'm done right now. I'm going to give another year or two. He signed a 4-year contract. I don't think he coaches all 4, but who knows? Again, it's hard to step away when you have a really good team like this. On one hand, on the other hand, you want to leave your son a good situation as well. So,
hey,
trying to balance that.
Can you shed some light on this to people who don't know? Kelvin's 69, but a big perk to this is, and he says it's a huge reason why he took the job in the first place, it helps when you can go to work every day with your family.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, his family's around so much. And his wife and daughter are awesome. Kellen's a rising star in the business. And, that was, he said it last year a lot at the Final Four, like just the experience of enjoying it with them. They're around all the time. You were there.
His wife and daughter gave it to him. I mean, his wife and daughter run the show.
Weren't you there? Remember when he went at me in the hallway after the game when I said something like,
Tell that story.
it was the Final Four. It was the semifinal game, right? Where
They beat.
they came back and won against Duke. And I think I said to him, like, there's no way you thought you could do this or something like that. And he just lit me up, right? You probably remember it better than I did.
Oh, yeah, he buried you. But you were next to his wife and daughter.
Yes. And they were laughing.
Yes.
They were cracking
up. And that
up.
got him to, he was just messing with you.
Yes, he was.
And then what did he say to you? He said, he shook you.
Yeah.
He said, I can't believe we're going to the national championship game.
Yes.
Because I would say
it's an unbelievable story, Fana. Because think about, again, we've heard it, we know it, but to live it, and like I remember writing the story when he was fired at Indiana. I broke it. I broke the story when he was fired at Indiana, and he was kind of a pariah then. Had to go to the NBA, and Popovich kind of rescued his career, and and then he comes back to a Houston program that sucked. I mean, it was so irrelevant. It was one of the worst programs in the country at that point among the, high majors, and what he's done there to get it back and sustain it, and the way he's done it to get this respect too now, where now people look at Kelvin. If you're talking about top 5 coach in college basketball, Kelvin Sampson has to be on there. Yeah. If you're talking about it. So yeah, this will be a fun ride for him. Because again, they'll have a shot, not just like a shot to like maybe go to the Final Four. Now your upside is probably higher than it's ever been because these 3 freshmen bring a different level of talent. And you still got these other guys who are even program guys. Walker has been there, and they're hoping Mercy Miller, takes a step forward. They're hoping he can be, a player that gives him something in terms of scoring. He's just got to be a little bit smarter with the ball, not turn it over. But they've got some guys, too, that have been there a while. Walker's been there for a long time, and just a culture guy who you can bring in off the bench. So, yeah, they're going to be loaded. They're going to be loaded again.
X Factor, who is it?
So I'm going to go with Flemings. It's like that other guard, other guard that's going to give him some scoring pop, I think will give him a completely different dimension than what they've had. Now, Cryer turned into more than just a shooter last year for them. Give him credit. But this kid's got another kind of gear, the way he plays, the toughness, all that. I think you put him and Uzan together in the backcourt with Sharp. Like those 3, and then again, you've got Tugler and I keep calling him Senak up front. That's a pretty intimidating starting unit with Harwell coming off the bench.
And Flemings has terrific athleticism.
Yeah.
He can really get up the floor in a hurry and make things happen for his teammates. And Jeff, if the shot has grown. The swing skill, people that have written about him in the circuit and whatnot say that if that perimeter shot, he hasn't been as reliable from 3 as he has in the mid-range, which if you're a Houston guard, you better know how to shoot the mid-range because that's how they get things done. I would say that my X factor would be Harwell because when you're coming off of, he's good now, but when you're coming off of something as major as an ACL and you've missed over a year and they expect him to figure into a solid role. And then it would be just how much they're relying on Senak.
Yeah.
If they are expecting him, they don't need him. But let's just say he is Jarris Walker or better or something like that. Yeah. And he becomes a top 5 or 6 pick in the draft. With Sharp, with Uzan, Houston can win the national championship. They might be the favorite to win it.
Yeah.
So I think we're seeing the same thing. The freshmen and how they pan out. That to me, Jeff, is what's fascinating, right? A couple of these top programs, they leaned into, let's have some continuity, spend our money that way, but then we still believe in spending and bringing in top-tier freshmen. It's class dependent. You're not going to see this as much in 2026.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. It's class dependent because this class was very, very good. 2026 is very, very, very mediocre.
But I think you would agree, we like to see rosters that are still constructed like this.
I love it.
Not everybody has the luxury, but it's what's good about the sport and not, okay, who did they bring in? How did they do it all? Give them a grade.
A. I think you got to give Houston an A. How can you not? Again, they got 3 top 25-ish freshmen. They brought back their standout defensive player. They brought back their point guard. They got Sharp back. They got their bench back. Basically, all their bench players are back, most of them, and they know the system. So I think you got to give Kelvin. And you listen, you got Kelvin Sampson back. You got Kelvin Sampson back at 69 years old. So that's a pretty damn good offseason to me. They're in the equation again. We're talking about them as a preseason top 5 team again after losing in the championship game and losing some key pieces from last year.
Yeah, I'll give them an A as well.
Yeah.
There's no other grade that you should give them.
Nope.
They deserve it. They're an A-level program. They're right there. And I got to say, on August the 7th, like, there's just this gut feeling about seeing them in Indianapolis and having the pieces that they have. If these freshmen, if 2 of the 3 can really hit,
Right.
man, they might enter March Madness as, number 1 overall seed type team, because when you've done what they've done in the Big 12, they've been in the mix for that the last 2 years. That if I were to pick if Purdue's in Indianapolis, we know how fascinating that's going to be and how that could be Matt Painter's big moment. Imagine the world where Painter and Sampson now meet, because you would be saying man, there's so much that rides on a championship game because for both guys, there's
Kelvin being an hour down the road from Bloomington.
So much. And you think about it, that would be a title game between the last 2 runner-ups.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. There are a lot of really good teams this year that I think are going to be in the hunt. Certainly Houston is one of those.
There's your Cougars off-season grade. Will they continue to be at the top of the Big 12 because all they've done is own the league? And will they get that elusive national championship? We shall see. Subscribe, watch, and keep tuning into our off-season grade series.